Good evening, everyone. The story I have to tell tonight has never been spoken above a whisper, outside of a closed door, or in its entirety. This story has all the trials and tribulations that a good story has. While tonight you will not hear the entire tale, I hope that each of you will take something from this story and apply it to your life. This is now the time to tell this story. At age 0, a baby is taken away from her mother the minute after she is born. This baby knows nothing of this world. She has no memories of this story. This has been told to her. She was whisked away into foster care. Her mother could not take care of her. Fast forward to age 5. This beautiful little girl, full of life, happy, has loving parents who adopted her at age 4 months. They've cared for her in every way possible, and she's been spoiled rotten. She loves dresses, the smell of spring flowers, and the people who surround her. This little girl's life was about to change. One day, she asked her parents, "What is my adoption story?" She had never asked before. She had known she was adopted as far back as she could remember, but did not know what it really meant. Here's her adoption story, as told to her. Your mother was 19. She was in the Navy and had a relationship with a man who turned out to be married. She was sent back from her post in Guam and found out she was pregnant. Your father could not be reached, and when he finally was, he did not want to be a part of your mother's life. You were placed in foster care, and we adopted you a few months later. You are a blessing in her life. One day you may want to find your mother, or you may not. But remember this, she loved you, and we chose you. You were truly loved. The 5-year-old wasn't sure what to do with this tale at first. Then something struck her. Her birth father didn't want to be part of her birth mother's life. He knew she was pregnant, and he still walked away. The girl came to believe that she had been abandoned. Someone didn't love her. Someone left because of her. Often, after that story, and for years into the future, every time her parents scolded her, no matter how big or small reason, she thought this: my parents don't love me, my birth father didn't love me, no one loves me, why should I live if no one loves me? One day, she found her parents' wedding photo and gouged it with a red pen. This was the only way she could express how she felt. Tough thoughts for a 6-year-old. This is when she first learned to put on a mask. A mask that covered pain, gut-level pain. This mask came off for no one, except her trusty teddy bear, who listened to her sobs at night and her stories of nightmares of being kidnapped by her birth father. When she was 6, the neighbors down the street had 7 children, all of whom were adopted. Some knew their parents, others did not. The girl was closest to the youngest. He was only 2 years her senior. He said he wanted to be her special friend, that in order to be a special friend, she had to do things with him. If she wanted to stay his friend, she could never tell anyone of their secrets. She knew that something about the actions was wrong, but that was so afraid of not having a friend, not being loved by everyone, that she consented. She did not know what was happening until she was in middle school and had her first serious health class. One day as a teenager, she looked back to the 6-year-old. She realized she had been sexually molested. Even before the realization, she knew she was broken. She felt no one truly loved her. Her friend did bad things. Her parents weren't always happy with what she did. She decided at age 6 that she wanted to die. She didn't know how, though. She knew only a few things at such a young age. One night, she tried to suffocate herself with a pillow. She held the pillow across her face while lying on her back, grasping the headboard and exhaling. The small amount of air between her face and her pillow slowly started to disappear. Her breaths became shallow. She started to panic. She saw her life flash before her. She felt the pain in her lungs. Could she do this? Did she want to die? body was convulsing, and her arms gave way. Her lungs filled with air, and life returned to her body. She was not ready to die. These attempts dissipated as she grew older, but the pain worsened. At about age 8, she bought herself a locking journal with the pocket money she had earned. Every night she wrote the pain she felt, how she felt alone, how emotions ruled her, that she had no control over them, that her thoughts were racing, getting faster and faster and never slowing down. No one ever knew these things. She wore another mask on top of the first. It showed confidence, a smart, talented girl. No one saw beneath it. She became involved in theater and choir, pretending and singing as someone else gave her an outlet for her emotions. This mask became cemented. At 18, she entered college. She flourished academically as expected of an almost straight-A student. However, on Veterans Day 2000, she received a letter via Federal Express. The envelope inside was marked confidential. Her heart sank. It was from a woman who wrote a very long letter explaining that she was the young woman's birth mother. Emotions, pain, anger, frustration rushed through her. She began to have fits of rage that she took out on others. Letters were sent asking to be left alone, restraining orders were sought, and finally an attempt at a relationship took place. 9 years later, she cannot speak to her birth mother. The mask of adoption was removed. She was now proud to be adopted and given a life she could have never dreamed of. At age 21, the rage, the speed of emotions, the love one minute and the desire to die the next were too much to bear. Her therapist made a diagnosis that was agreed to by her psychiatrist. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. She was hospitalized and sent home for a semester to stabilize on tons of medications. She became depressed. She no longer had the mania, the passion, the positive moments of elation. She slowed down and felt as if she'd never be herself again. One medication made it impossible to read. Her Latin and history classes were almost impossible because of this disability. A lot of her friends and teachers would no longer talk to her because of her lashing out the semester before. She barely graduated on time, but she proved that someone with the disorder could get through a bachelor's degree, cum laude. She made peace with some, but many people labeled her as crazy despite her improvement. From ages 22 to 24, she couldn't hold down a job. She attempted culinary school, but couldn't handle the pressure. She wanted to die, but this time to be killed in an accident or just die suddenly, but not of her own faulting. Her new psychologist added a second diagnosis, borderline personality disorder. This disorder is mostly known for the splitting of emotions. I love you 1 minute, I hate you seconds later, and a desperate don't leave me after that. Her 4-year relationship with an emotionally abusive but sometimes supportive boyfriend ended because of the emotional roller coaster she couldn't get off of. A mask couldn't stick to this one. At 24, she finally landed a job at a reputable university. She began a graduate school program because it was essentially free. The pressures of work and school made her progress more slowly than her classmates. She lost friends every year as they walked down the aisle to receive their diplomas. She entered a special type of therapy to help her combat her emotions, and it helped. She began to feel, well, not normal, but at least stable and able to enjoy more things in life than before. At 26, she quit her job and went full-time in school in hopes of graduating sooner so she could attend another school. Her degree at the first university seemed a dead end. She did not want a career in that field. She struggled as a full-time student, but earned good grades despite the pressure. She felt alive again, like the student she had been before the chaos began. The mask could be removed, though her heart was still worn on her sleeve. Sure, the mask had to go back on sometimes for certain situations, but it was almost gone. You may ask, how did she do this all in such a short time? Her emotions, her misunderstandings, and her life gave her some very big challenges. Trauma from sexual and emotional abuse, a failed relationship with her birth mother, 2 various psychiatric diagnoses. A lot to deal with. You may ask, what is she doing these days? What's the ending of this story? The story, or the chapter of this young woman's life, is ending on a happy note. She's about to celebrate her 2nd anniversary with a loving boyfriend and receive her diploma from the University of Pennsylvania, a master's in government administration. What is she doing right this minute? She's standing in front of an audience, giving the final speech of her graduate career. Her name is my name, Melissa Catherine Rose Hosick. The masks are removed, and now you know my story. I want you to know this. Life is a roller coaster, more for so than for many others. Get to know someone. Ignore the diagnostic label that you may have heard they have. Many cope with diseases that you can't even see from the exterior. We each can succeed in our own way. Be supportive and listen. I want to thank everyone for the past 27 plus years for your help and support, whether it be an hour, a semester, a year, or a lifetime.